Hi, it's Isaac. Just a quick note at the top of the show to apologise profusely for this episode being late. This is very unlike us. We've had a few that are out like after midnight our time on the day they're supposed to because editing's taking a while, but we don't count those. This one we had ready to go, and as we mentioned in the episode a few times, we had to kind of bootstrap a recording setup other than our usual thing because the host was just down. The platform we use was going AWOL. They had a lot of issues. It took them about a week to get it all back together. So sorry it's late. I was going to say I hope it's worth waiting for, but I don't want to, get your expectations up too high. It's more of the same kind of nonsense. We are going to be keeping to our Wednesday weekly schedule for the foreseeable future. God and internet host willing. Enjoy the show. Thank you. I'd rather have a bowl of
Cocoa Pops.
Okay, and then do a countdown ready in this rhythm. 10,
9,
8,
7,
6.
Wait, what is this that we're doing, please?
It's so that I can time the rhythm of it. 5.
Wait, no, stop. Am I supposed to be doing it as soon as I
No,
hear
you're supposed to do
you?
it in rhythm. 5.
Right, I see.
5.
4,
3.
2.
This is worse than useless.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities.
Hello, and welcome to episode 45 of That's a Shame. My name is Declan. With me, as ever, of course, as always, as every week, as every bye-week, but now again every week. It's
Way to bring us down.
It's Isaac.
Hi, that's me.
How are you doing, Isaac?
Oh, I'm alright, thank you. I've been having fun with this whole recording setup today.
Yeah, I was about to say, let's not have a lie. You are not okay.
I'm on edge. Not on the edge of my seat in a good way, on edge about the whole recording thing. I'm fairly confident this episode will never make it to anyone's ears. Either because, whatever we're recording it in will just give up, or our host will just vanish off the face of the earth.
I've turned down my mic sensitivity by a fraction of 1%, and I'm now definitely 100% inaudible.
Good. Can't wait to edit.
So I'm having to adjust on the fly, which I'm sure is going to make it much easier for you on your end. I can't see that having any backlash at all.
Well, we're back once again.
We are.
For a triumphant return to, well, I don't know if this will have come out, I was going to say to schedule, but our host is down at the moment, so it might not be out until the future in some vague way. So sorry about that. But at least it's here, hey?
It will be here,
Yeah.
he said overconfidently.
By the time you've heard it, it's out, isn't it? So what are you going to do? Have a go at us?
What are you
down.
complaining about?
Exactly.
You miserable bastards.
What an episode we have, though, am I right?
As
I hope so.
ever. When you say that every week, some people think it cheapens it.
It's weird, isn't it? I don't get that line of argument myself.
Those people are fools, Isaac.
They don't know what they're talking about.
Because you just happen to be correct every week. You're just being honest.
Yeah, exactly. Look, if one week it's like a warrant canary, if I stop saying it, you'll know something's up.
And I sound like I've been replaced.
Yeah. I've been summoned to a secret court to have Declan shot for crimes against Block Switch.
When you tune in to episode 60 and it's just Isaac and Siri, you'll know that things have really gone downhill for Shame City.
Well, everyone has a different perspective on Siri's contribution to the show, and we'll leave it to the listeners to decide. But look, we've got 11 plus stories. We've got possibly a scam call that I recorded that I'll attach to the end of this episode to bulk out the content. We've
Fantastic.
got something about tuition story that I'll just imagine out of my brain. And of course, where would we be without the key patron of this podcast, our muse, our icon, Proust? He'll be making a big comeback, won't he?
He certainly will. And
It's been years since we
I've
discussed
got a
him.
feeling that this week's questions are going to be something out of the ordinary.
I would not bet a single silver penny on that.
I did say that with no knowledge of what they were, but a lot of knowledge of what they have
Some
been.
of the worst so far. Thanks, Marcel.
If you had to be a species of slug, which species of slug would be third on your list?
Yep, it's pretty much the vibe. Where ever to begin is the question we find ourselves. With this much content, the job really becomes not how do we deliver the quality, because that's already there, but in what order do we kind of build the narrative of this episode?
How do we navigate our way through the absolute maze
A jungle
of content that we have
of
for you?
quality.
Well, I think that we probably just
Email.
dive straight in with something we haven't mentioned. You're right, it's email.
No, I don't know. I made that up. I was...
Okay, well, shall I start with some 11 plus stuff?
Yeah, why not? Because you haven't told me anything about it. You're going to have
know.
to set up a lot of context for what the 11 plus is.
So,
At the moment, it just sounds like a very questionable dating requirement. It's going to land you in a lot of trouble.
gender, don't worry about it. Just, the requirements are simple. No, so the 11 plus is an entrance exam for secondary school in ever decreasing numbers of places across the UK. Essex seems to be the last bastion
They're
of the
clinging
grammar
on.
school. Yeah, I mean, we have about 8 or 9 just in my local area.
Wow. What do you think it
whereas you can
says
go-
about a county that they particularly enjoy investing time and money into testing 11-year-olds?
Well, probably nothing good, but I suppose that it's probably a facet of being so close to London that there's a need or a desire for any kind of edge in terms of educational competition, but that there isn't necessarily enough money to go to the next step of private education. So we've settled on something in the middle.
A hinterland.
That's the one.
Cool.
So these are primary school children who take a test in maths and English, and I think in some places something called verbal reasoning as well. But I think that they're trying to phase that out.
Yeah, that was like the main thing I remember from doing it back in the day. Was all that verbal, non-verbal reasoning stuff. It was like puzzles.
Yeah, so I think that they're trying to phase out the verbal reasoning because it's the factor
Quite clearly
that's
nonsense.
most. Well, not that it's nonsense, but it's the factor that's most easily tutored. Like it separates people by who's been tutored and who hasn't, and they're trying to eliminate that as much as possible. But the English examination consists of a comprehension and then a continuous writing piece, and that in and of itself is a tenuous name for what some of them manage to provide.
Okay.
So I was asked to do this last year by the school that I had worked for. And it's decent money for like not very much work at all. And it's always quite a laugh. So I decided to do it again. And I went along. This year it was at King Edward VI Grammar School the marking was taking place. Essentially the location for the marking changes. Yeah, it changes each year. And every school in the sort of South Essex region sends along like 3 people to make the maddest crack squad of markers you ever did see.
Sounds like a really very quickly rejected pilot season sitcom commission.
Yes. Markers.
Who would we have as our 3? It's got to be like a madcap group. I'd get Whoopi Goldberg.
So you get Whoopi Goldberg in. You probably get maybe Jeremy Irons in.
We're just doing The Lion
fastidious old
King.
man. And then, yeah,
And then Mufasa.
Matthew Broderick. You just get a bird just to be the third marker.
You get the Serengeti just to turn up. Start spitting sand at everyone.
So I turned up, and the quality was actually, on average, I'd say higher than last year.
What's everyone's handwriting like?
Oh,
Variable.
dreadful.
Really? That's good
It's
to know.
much like yours.
No, well, I like to know that they're not
But-
overtaking me.
But imagine if you had even less motor control.
Ooh, can't.
Apart from one kid who was had preposterously neat handwriting,
Serial
and then
killer.
I realised that he'd had a scribe. so that was probably one of the
Little
reasons.
Roman emperor child.
Yeah. So I have vaguely, but only in my head, separated the long list of things I've written down into categories for us today. So if it sounds like I'm struggling, it's because it is still all one jumbled chronological list rather than anything conducive to podcasting. But I have made quite the record of all of the unfortunate, sometimes funny, sometimes tragic things that these children have written.
Okay,
so
I'm ready.
I figure that there's no better place to start off than with an old favourite of ours, which is misspellings.
Okay, this is good. Can I ask before we dive in, though?
Of course.
I want to get in the heads of the examinators, as they call them.
Right.
I just want to know, like, what sort of question am I setting these children? What is the prompt?
So they have 2 questions, and there are 20 minutes to complete both.
Goodness, that's not long.
Nope.
It's not very continuous at all.
Each one only needs to be 6 or 7 sentences.
Oh, right.
So the first question this year was, what is explain what is your favourite part of the school day? And the second
That's
was
so devoid of imagination.
The second was, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Okay. Quite disparate questions so far. There's a lot of contrast.
So, thankfully, they were both topics that did provide for some particularly intricate levels of nonsense from these kids,
that was good.
which we'll get on to soon. But we dive straight in to the world of misspellings. Now, the best thing about these is that so many of them, because they are, on the whole, clever kids taking this, even the ones that won't pass, is that there aren't many dreadfully wrong spellings of words. But when they are, they're absolutely appalling.
Okay.
And when they're not, they're our favourite type of just one letter off.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so close, but you got pipped at the post. So the first one that I wrote down, in fact, the first thing that I wrote down at all, was the child who said, I like to spend my lunchtime running through the fields of daffodils.
A daffodil is like Daffy the Duck stuck to a big flower, like a kind of Christ figure.
I think it sounds like the first draft for Day of the Triffids.
The daffodils.
The daffodil began to... No, I'm sorry.
I'm burning this page.
We then have 2 animals.
I don't believe that child anyway. Are they allowed to just imagine lies? Because no fucking way is a kid in Essex running through a field of daffodils at lunch.
I'm hoping you weren't one of those total mugs at school who, whenever you were set a task about like your home life or something, was fastidiously true, even if it was boring as all
I just didn't do them. That was my solution.
I see, great.
Just bypass. Here's a little trick, guys. Just bypass the whole work.
There was always someone in German who would like come in and not having done it or not having done very much. And when asked why he hadn't done the exercise about, what do you do in your free time? His answer was, I don't do anything, so I didn't have anything to say.
Wow. It's depressing.
The teacher was like, I'm not going to check. Like, that's not the point of the homework. It's not spying. I'm not ringing up your mum going, does he really do this? Does he really go to church every Sunday? Or is he just lying to me?
Yeah. Someone at my primary school, though, because look, there's a flip side to this. Someone at my primary school wrote, it was supposed to be a similar thing like chronicling. I think we were learning about diary format or something. And they wrote a piece about, dear diary, today Daddy came home with his big box like he does every week. And in it, it transpired was a load of guns that he was smuggling. And I don't think he used the word smuggling, but it talked about how Daddy used to sell the guns. And clearly this kid had just seen a film. But the teacher went mental. And he was like, there was an investigation. We were like asked questions like, does seem like his parents are drug smugglers? No, Miss Morton, not on the whole. So there's a danger to fiction is what I'm getting at.
I suppose there is, but that's why we need teachers who aren't idiots.
Oh, yeah.
That's the real danger.
Or parents who aren't smugglers.
We had 2 animals next. Someone wrote, and what annoyed me about this one particularly is that it felt like they were rushing, they accidentally got it wrong. But then they spelt it this way about 3 times throughout. And it's not exactly a forgivable misspelling. They'd spelt turtle, but with no second T. So it's just turl.
That's a horrid word.
And first time I was like, okay, fair enough. And then later on they're like, yeah, I'd like to be a turl.
Oh dear, it sounds like a nautical slur of some sort. Like a really ugly mermaid.
You fucking turl.
She's got barnacles for eyes. Horrible.
And in the same section, they talked about how they'd also, if they couldn't be a turl, they'd like to be a dolphin.
Well,
Dolphin.
that's a shame as well.
One kid wrote about how the field was eye-bobbling. And then also how one of his lessons was mind-bobbling.
That's so sweet.
Such a sweet little mistake.
Oh, I hope that's the kind of thing that his family have just never corrected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mind bobbles at the thought of this. Absolutely bobbles.
There's a board game called Boggle, isn't there? So he'll have fun playing that.
Yeah.
Bless.
There was one kid who had a very existentialist space.
Okay.
Where he, talking about the power of invisibility and then how you would come out from that, he said, I could make myself visible, which felt really deep.
Yeah.
Just really like getting the heart of him known, the very core.
The body's still invisible, but somehow his just manifestation of agency can be seen from every point on the planet.
We got stuck in traffic on the motorway. Motorway is such a horrible
Motorway.
Another person who I was marking with found an unfortunate sequence where somebody talked about how they like to play hide and seek on the field, and there's a little copse for them to hide in, but had of course written corpse. Making their lunchtime sound like something out of The Revenant.
We go and hide in the corpse so that the reavers don't find us.
They'll never see us there.
That's horrible. What a great image.
There was not so much a misspelling, but just a miswriting, I suppose. There was on the front of the paper where there are loads of boxes to fill in, one of them is boy or girl, and a girl had written...
That's very binary, isn't it?
It is.
That's not very progressive, Essex.
Progression isn't the watchword.
No.
These are grammar schools, let's remember.
Oh, yeah.
But she'd written girl, but her R went straight into the L, so it just looked like gin, which just felt like my mood.
That's like... That's my sexuality.
Yeah. I self-identify as gin.
That's great.
Then, this one I only found today, which was someone said, when we went along, he was just lying. Okay, let's get this out of the way. He was lying.
I hate him already.
He was saying that he went to the cinema, but there were all these football legends there.
Oh, come off it. Zidane at a multiplex.
No,
Fuck
like
off.
even more than that, dead ones.
Oh,
His dad's absolute footballing hero is there. I don't know if you've ever heard of Gorge Best.
Oh, Gorge.
Gorge.
Yes.
The next 3 are all dreadful, dreadful shames. So I think I'll save my favourite till the end. So we have 2 from the opposite end of the spectrum now to discuss, which are really off the wall spellings. These are, in the area where you've never read a book. You've never seen this word written down.
But they're just having a guess.
They're just having a go, And I mean, props to them for trying, but also never try again.
That's the message you want to convey
to
our 11-year-old listeners.
In at number 3, we had the word usual. How do you think this might have been spelt?
I can see it getting some W's involved. I can see an R maybe creeping in.
You're not wrong on the W's, no R's.
Okay. Is it going to start with like an EW vibe?
No, here we go.
How about an H?
No, they've gone a little bit more constructionist than you, I think.
Okay.
You're going phonetically. That's not how this person works. What they've done is they've written the word use.
Okay, clever.
Then there's a small hyphen.
Oh.
And then they've written the word wall.
Use wall.
Yep.
Yes. I see.
That's the use wall way of doing it.
What about the place name Thingwall? Isn't that just the worst thing?
Stop that. That's
Have
not
you
a
not come
place.
across Thingwall?
No, and I
think
hope
it-
never to do so again.
Well, you're in luck because I've used my $25 Airbnb credit for one night only. Our Thingwall special.
Just down the road from Blockswitch. Then we have maybe the worst spelling I've ever seen.
Okay.
This is this goes into the Hall of Fame as the worst attempt. This is like that famous Reddit one that excurgated.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do.
So in school, you could write an essay.
Mm-hmm.
How have they written essay?
Oh, they got one of those words wrong already. If
Yep.
it's just the letters S and A.
That's the one. The letters S and A.
So
Both-
on one of the tutoring sites I use, there's a button.
Right.
I think it's fairly new, this tutoring site, so I don't think they've thought this feature through very well. But when you're like teaching someone English as a second language, if they come on and they're like rude or, I don't know, just an idiot, or literally for any reason, there's just a button that says ban student forever. And wouldn't it be great if you had a similar bit of functionality in place for the 11 plus?
I'm so angry that there isn't. Like, there are so many things, especially today, doing the admin, where I think that you should be banned. If you misspell the word favourite on the first line, despite it being printed in the question, not 1 centimetre above,
You're not cut out for school.
should just preclude you from the idea of education forever. You are lost to education.
Oh.
If you can't listen to the instruction, write your surname, then your first name. Or if for some reason you've got so many names that you don't know which ones to put down,
Look, I've been there.
and you don't put down the single one by which I need to identify you, then you shouldn't be allowed in.
Yeah. I guess that'd be difficult to admit that person anyway, because they're a total name ghost.
Yeah, that's it. Imagine the amount of time that I spent attempting to alphabetize a list of papers where only 30% of them had actually written their names. It makes it really difficult.
But in another way, it makes it very easy to choose who's allowed to progress in the test.
I wish.
It's like, well, there's an incinerator here that these will all be pushed into, like Veruca Salt.
Now, my favourite misspelling of all time. Here it is. Because it's a double whammy.
Okay.
This person hedged their bets twice and lost. This person went for the double or nothing and came out with nothing.
Came out with 2 nothings.
Yeah. So
Odd.
my favourite subject is geography.
Okay. That sounds racist somehow.
Full stop. The reason I like geography.
Oh no, they've changed it.
Yeah. Imagine that. Like,
Wow.
you've tried twice and failed
That's
both
lovely.
times. It just also makes me not believe that it's your favourite, that you can't spell it.
I'd have thought they'd put 1 second into working out how to spell their favourite. I do admire the approach though, because that is like spread betting, isn't it? They're acknowledging, I don't know how to spell this word, so I'll give it my 2 best attempts.
Yeah.
And, one of them's got to be right. It's got to be geography.
It's a shame that they don't know that hedging your bets is probably likely to get you fewer marks than just sticking to your guns.
Yeah, maybe.
So we move on to category 2 now.
Mm-hmm.
Category 2 is nonsense superpowers.
Okay. Oh yeah, I didn't think of the potential for this.
So there are so many different things that went wrong with this question.
Mm-hmm.
Some people chose superpowers that aren't superpowers.
Like what? Breakfast.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Some people chose to get a superpower by having a different superpower so they could mimic having the first one,
Wow, waste of time.
which was cumbersome to read, certainly.
Cumbersome to watch for a whole series of heroes. Well. That showed them.
So, and the other is questionable ways in which they would use their powers.
Yeah. I
So-
guess they're quite young to be using them in too questionable a way. I'd hope.
You're wrong, I'm afraid.
That's a shame.
So, let's start with the boy who wanted the superpower of, all caps, running.
Now, hang on. Do we know for certain that this boy was in his present, was he able-bodied is what I'm getting at?
Well, what I'm going to say is that if he weren't, and that's why he wanted the superpower of running, I'd have hoped he'd have mentioned it at some point in the extract.
Right. That seems fair.
I want the superpower of running because currently I can only roll. I'd have given him full marks straight away for that sentence alone. But really, he just wanted to run. And I was like,
okay.
What? I've got great news for you, kid.
What you want to do is give walking a go, but here's the trick.
just
do
one
a
after
bit
the other.
more.
Quick. Go on. One. Go
You're
on.
there.
Yeah, next one.
Can you imagine being there if, for the first time in 11 years, a child realised that they too could unlock the capacity of running?
It was no longer a dream.
Level up!
There was a boy who wanted the ability to change into whatever animal he wanted so that he could turn into a bird.
Right.
Because he wanted to be able to fly.
Well, that's not necessary. I think that's good logic because he wants to fly now. He's saying, I don't know, in 30 years, I might want to swim.
I see now. The thing is, he could probably swim anyway. The superpower of swimming. But also, he spent the entire 8 sentences that he wrote talking about why he just loved to fly. And I couldn't help but think that he'd maybe missed an opportunity.
For what? To just be able to fly without being a bird?
Fly, yes.
Yeah, but I bet it's different if you're a bird, don't you? Because if you're flying without wings, it's weird. People will look at you.
You're right. It is different as a bird. You're more likely to be preyed upon or shot down, maybe.
I don't know. Because if you're a person flying around, you're going to be arrested by science and studied. Have you not seen X-Men?
Oh, no. They've all got invisibility as well.
Oh, right.
Don't you worry. Every single child wanted to be invisible.
Weird. That's an odd thing, isn't it?
But in true Carl Pilkington style, for the most boring of reasons.
So is it what's Carl? So that he can get locked in a shop overnight?
Yeah, he wants to get locked in the shop overnight.
So there's no other people around when he does his record shopping or something.
We had someone who wanted to be invisible. And in fact, most of them wanted to be invisible so that they could be better at hide and seek. And only one fucker out of it must have been 200 papers I marked that said they wanted to be invisible to win at hide and seek. Only one fucker admitted that it was cheating. The rest of them said it would make me better. Well, it's not better.
I thought you were going to say, I thought you were going to say only one of them wanted the superpower of extraordinary seeking. He's just going to fuck them all over. It's like these 200 dickheads.
I want the ability to be able to see invisible people.
Yeah.
That's like, do you remember there was a Reddit thread a little while ago of what would be the worst superpowers to have. Mm-hmm. And the top 2 were the ability to control ants, brackets, but only 3 at a time. and the ability for everyone else to read your thoughts. Oh, no.
That's not an ability.
It's a real the opposite. Super powerlessness.
Super hindrance.
That sounds like an ableist slur. We'll see. Oh, he's got one of those super hindrances. We had a girl who wanted to be able to freeze time, and the only reason that she was able to give was so that she could freeze time, run across the room, unfreeze time, and make it look like she'd teleported.
This fucking Bernadette's watch.
All I can think of is that for her, the deceit is just as important as the power itself. She doesn't just want to be able to teleport. She wants to have tricked you.
No, yeah. She's got to have that extra step of like, you fucking idiot. Not only have I got the appearance of 2 different powers, but my third and most important power is being better than you on an intellectual level.
The last point on invisibility is that one kid wanted it so that he could play on his Xbox without his parents knowing it was him. And I was about to write the comment, could it be one of their other invisible children. But before I could, I saw that the next sentence said, they'll just think it's playing itself.
Oh, there it is, Margaret, just playing itself again. Where's Kevin? Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about
Bed's
it.
empty. He's not answering, but I'm sure he's fine. Kids are like that these days. It's just such a wonderful insight into that childish logic of
lovely.
like, well, if you walked into the room and the Xbox was on, but you couldn't see me playing it, they'd never assume it was invisible me. They'd assume it's just ghosts. Equally, a lot of them wanted telekinesis, and only one person that the 3 people on my table came across in the 3 days was able to spell it correctly.
That's fair enough. That's a difficult one.
They all wanted it just so that they could change the TV without using the remote.
Oh, that's depressing. That's like something that Richard Littlejohn would conjure in a kind of hate-based polemic
Hate-based
about
classist
millennials
diatribe
in Essex. Yeah,
it was a shame that so many of them said that, or like, oh, I could get my phone without moving. Fucking hell! You want the ability to move things with your mind so that you could just sit down more. I suppose my last thoughts on this particular bit is a troublesome episode, in which a boy said that he would like to be able to shapeshift into animals, and one of his reasons, in fact, the reason that he spent the longest describing was mainly, he said, if I was the last person on Earth, I could turn into an animal and fill the world with animals.
Oh, now, couple of issues.
You're not concerned by this, are you?
I find it very worrying indeed.
What exactly about this child's very open admission of lust of a bestial nature?
Does it count as bestiality if you are an animal at that point, though?
I'm sure it does. I think bestiality's got to be about the conscious.
When you shapeshift into an animal, is it implicit that your brain does not?
Well, yeah, otherwise that'd be it. You wouldn't even know that you're you.
But maybe there's a chance that like lions, like maybe one lion every million years dreams about being a human, and that would be enough to like trigger the power back. And you'd be like, oh fuck, I was just a lion for ages.
That's a big gamble you're playing.
Yeah. Look, I'm not saying that's how it is. I'm just saying that if it were one of those, you know, those types of capricious genie you get these days.
Street corners, they're just selling their wares.
Workaday genie pricks with their tricks that they have and caveats on powers. I think that would be a good one to explore. Better, of course, than like repopulating via your own horrible actions.
Seed.
You'd have to shapeshift so quickly that you were multiple members of the same species at the same time.
No. What do you mean?
Well, if he's going to procreate with just himself left.
No, he's not. No. If he's the only person left, he could populate the world with animals.
But the world would already be populated with animals.
But he's going to speed that process up.
It's very much taking care of itself.
He's really
back off.
He's really putting his foot down on this one.
Simply is not the conservation angle. Is not going to buy you any fucking animals points, Kevin.
This is pedal to the floor repopulation. This is
the RSPCA aren't going to be there to give him any brownie points for this, and it's entirely for his own pleasure.
Do you reckon his offspring would have a weird kind of semi-consciousness as well? Isn't that the real horrible?
They would know just enough. They'd have just enough self-awareness to know that something was wrong, but not be able to do anything about it.
Like the end of being John Malkovich or something.
Like the Curiosity rover.
Oh no! Or like that.
I've got some inside information.
Or like that. Did you see the robot? I think it was Dorman from that company that drowned itself.
Oh, that's very sad.
It's just the most tragic picture of it had gone outside and fallen into a little water feature outside.
That was it. That was the end of robots.
Now, I recognise that we're running short on time.
Yeah, well, we can make this into more than one episode.
Oh, fantastic. Do you want to leave some of these then for next
Yeah,
time?
okay. Let's go into some emails. Then.
Yeah. Just
How long do we have?
We got about 10 minutes.
Okay, well, we've got a few emails, and then if we've got time, then we'll do a quick Proust.
Yeah.
What emails do we have? On scheduling from Toby Milestones King. I don't have Twitter, he says, because I'm not a tosser. Well, that's shade thrown already there, Toby. But my vote is for Wednesday. Fits better with my schedule, and the world revolves around me. The vote, we should say, for the episode release date is heavily skewing Wednesday at the moment, and I think it shuts in about 1 second. I know, like tomorrow, 82% Wednesday, 18% Sundays. So it's looking like Wednesday is going to be the one. In case you don't know what we're on about, then we're cutting to 1 episode a week for the time being, and that's going to be Wednesday, it looks like, in case it all goes crazy. Other email we've had is from Mark. I've just started composing a response back to them. Half time is the email. Do you have this up?
No, I don't.
Well, look, I'll read it for you.
Go
That's the
right
kind
ahead.
of person I am. Isaac and Declan. It certainly is a shame that I will soon only get to hear your ramblings on a weekly basis rather than bi-weekly. Brackets. It's odd that that word means both twice a week and every 2 weeks. The English language is full of many such quirks. Yes, it is a shame, isn't it? I dislike that fact.
There's an entire episode of Archer where part of the plot revolves around knowing the difference between biannual and biennial.
That's quite good. You said that you were worried that people might choose to prune your podcast when suffering from an overload. I must admit that I do prune podcasts that have sat unlistened for too long. Me too. But that has been from other providers and not yours. So that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. As to the difficult choice as to which day to keep, my vote would go for the Wednesday episode. There we go. Anyway, the loss will be tempered by the new big-budget production standards you will be bringing in for future episodes.
Mark preemptively taking the piss out of us there.
He knows. With regards to Airbnb, by some form of reverse psychology on your behalf, I ended up using it for the first time to book some accommodation in Paris. This is my favourite sentence. You made it sound like such a fun way to meet interesting new people and have exciting adventures. Do you think we've been irresponsible because we made it sound like it's a real lark to get yourself almost killed now?
Do you think that we made it sound like a real lark?
I don't know.
I thought that we did our best to make it as horrifying as possible by simply telling exactly what happened.
Yeah, I suppose, but it was still content. Anyway, the owner cancelled my reservation the night before I was meant to arrive, so a very short-lived excursion for me, but no living in fear of my imminent brutal murder and being secreted under a dirty tarpaulin. So swings and roundabouts.
Secreted? That's a horrible misreading.
I know.
Secreted under a dirty tarpaulin.
From a pipette.
That's an even worse crime.
I've been turned into a horrible goo at this point.
You somehow managed to make Joe even worse. Getting Augustus glooped into the back garden.
Viscous. So in conclusion, once a week for the podcast is infinitely better than not at all. Thanks for the entertainment. Thanks for your email, Mark. As ever, we are big fans of receiving them.
We inevitably have a moment where we simultaneously message one another about having read your email.
Oh yeah, we do. We get very excited. We have a couple of minutes left, don't we?
We do,
don't
we? Yeah,
okay.
Please. Yes, we have a few minutes left.
We left Proust all those months ago with the question, what are your favourite names? Or did we do what is it that you most dislike?
What is it? What was the second one, sorry?
What is it that you most dislike?
We haven't done that.
I didn't think so either. So question 32, you'll never guess what it is. What is it that you most dislike?
Now, on the face of it, this sounds like the perfect question for our show. But the spectrum is so broad here.
Yeah, exactly. We've got 44 episodes of what we most dislike so far. So if I can get in line, Proust.
Thus far, we seem to have settled on Joe as the option.
He's up there.
The very idea of dying in block switch is what I dislike the most.
Perilously similar to other questions that Proust's asked us, isn't it?
Yeah, he's good at that.
About traits you deplore in others.
This is like one of my university essays where I've just said the same sentence over and over in different ways.
For the best. Yes. What are you leaning towards? What's the kind of... Maybe we should start narrowing it down. Remember how we managed to narrow it down to Mona the Vampire from the whole host of characters?
Of people who could have been my idol.
Yeah. So I think if we start identifying some basic areas, so is the thing you most dislike, is it going to be a person?
It's Charlie Zapman Bones from the TV
from-
show Mona the
Mona
Vampire.
that vampire. She's a nice normal girl.
That makes Mona sound like a verb. Mona that vampire.
That horrible game show. Horrible Van Helsing game show. Are you thinking people? Are you thinking trait? Are you thinking object?
I'm thinking, well, trait we've already
Feeling.
done. People we could do, but we've also done that. Who do you most despise?
Who did we say for that?
I think I plucked for Kissinger.
Oh, yes, I do remember that. Oh, and mine was just Piers Morgan because I'd read something about him that day.
Oh, yeah.
It's changed now. He's no longer my least favourite.
Oh, who is it at the moment?
At the moment, good question. I don't know the person by name, but it's got to be whoever is behind this conspiracy theory about the Las Vegas shootings, that the shooter was the same person who ran one of the, like, camps that handed out free water bottles at a marathon once.
What?
Have you not followed this theory?
No.
So this is one of the more fringe ones, but basically the idea is that it was a false flag operation.
Oh, I've seen too many of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Theories.
And there are a couple of them. I think the most prominent one that InfoWars have covered is that he's a guy called John. Let me see. Hoax. It's basically a guy who's already been in public. Maybe it was someone involved in Sandy Hook. He was like one of the first responders at Sandy Hook. They reckon is
Right.
now the shooter because they guess. Well, I'll tell you the similarities, and you tell me what you think.
Okay, cool.
So they're both men.
Right. Same name, yeah?
Not that we know, but you know,
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
name, like he could change a name, couldn't he?
What about date of birth or age?
No.
no.
Well, age, they're both old, you know.
Oh, old. Oh,
Yeah.
they're both
You know that
old.
age.
Oh, very old. Geriatric or
Oh, just, you know, like generally old.
Oh, just
in the
old.
old area of...
older?
Yeah, exactly. Older men so
Yeah.
far.
Right. Okay.
But
not. But they are. So they're like. Yeah, that's the same age. Yeah. That's
yeah. I mean, it's you know, swings and roundabouts. Plus, some time's going to overlap, isn't it? Since
Yeah.
since
So
we
he would
last
have got
saw him.
older. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he looks younger, but don't worry about that.
No. that's a
and
different
then-
issue.
Of course, they've both got white hair, or not much hair as well.
They both have not much white hair.
Yeah, so it's the same, isn't it?
That's well, I'm convinced. False
Yeah, that's
flag.
exposed. So whoever's behind that particular conspiracy cuntery, and it's made its way to the flat Earth community. Of course, they're big.
Of course,
Because
they-
not only is the
my
Earth
God,
flat,
they
but guns
are
obviously can't
loving
kill anyone.
it.
So yeah, they're all up in it.
If we took away their guns, how would they shoot at the firmament to prove
How
it's
would
real?
How would they shoot Thoth away from crashing into Puerto Rico or whatever it's up to?
I think my least favourite person at the moment is probably Boris Johnson.
Oh yeah,
I think I've finally reached that point where there is no humour left in anything he says. Not
when he
even in
calls
an
people
ironic sense.
supine, protoplasmic,
No,
whatever it was.
I
No,
can't watch that without vomiting.
no, me neither. He's
you know
a
how-
horrible man.
This week he made that joke about Libya
Mm.
and about how it could be the next holiday destination as soon as they clear up the bodies. And
That's
then
tasteful, isn't it? Because he's foreign secretary.
and then had the balls to tweet that it's a shame that people were trying to politicise his statement when they didn't know much about Libya.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's once you know about Libya, you know that's fine. There's a great tradition of joking about dead civilians, obviously. That
yeah.
I don't know that. I'm just taking Boris's lead on that one. As
I mean, the only saving grace was that video of him having to be told to stop reciting the Rudyard Kipling poem in the Myanmar temple,
yes,
which is just the most outrageous public shame for any foreign secretary, surely be.
yes, it's not.
And
great,
yet
is
he
it?
perseveres.
Like a horrible, malignant
Cunt.
growth. Oh yeah, no, that one. That's him.
A horrible, malignant cunt.
The absolute dopin.
Dopin.
So what is it that dopin? Yeah. What is it that you most dislike is going to be Boris Johnson at the moment?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
I can't think of like an object which I suppose is the only thing left of the like trait. I suppose we could go for concept. What concept do you hate the most? For me, it's equality.
Peace.
No. Oh, I should throw in, like, just as an aside, that I did give a girl from the 11 plus full marks because for her superpower was she wanted the superpower to bring peace, which is normally something that I would just kind of roll my eyes at because it feels like a shameless attempt to get marks. But she wrote the most incredibly eloquent like UN address about why peace would be great. It was like 2 pages long. It felt like something from the end of an Aaron Sorkin script.
Wow, get her on the show.
Yeah, I'll
She
send
can
her a message.
launch her platform.
I'm sure that's not a
this
crime.
podcast.
Hey, got your deets from the 11 plus, little girl. How'd you like to come and join me and my older friend on a podcast?
Look, I've got a DBS check that specifically says that I'm safe.
Mine's
work in
8 days
schools.
out of date. It's the most
I know,
dangerous
so
time
you're
to
gonna
be
get
launching
arrested
such a
within seconds.
venture.
Okay, what is it that you most dislike? For me, it's got to be, again, like I can't think of an object in particular. I'm trying to think of an object that makes me like irrationally angry though, because there must be something. What about, here's one for you. When you go to bounce a bouncy ball and it just collapses with like more weight than it should have on the floor. That's a very impotent rage that I think we can all relate to.
Yeah. Or where you're about to get it after a couple of bounces, but it just clips something that's at an angle and then somehow it seems to gain about 20% more energy than it ever
amazing.
had before and just disappears into a different realm.
I like that. That keeps you guessing. How about, here's another one. What about when you're having jelly or jello, as I believe you call it over in the States, and you're just enjoying its gentle dissolvability and just the whole vibe of the jelly is just great. And then you bite a bit and it's just like jelly gristle. Have you ever had that?
I am sickened to
And you
my
pull it out and it's
very
like a tendon
soul
or a hoof.
by the phrase jelly gristle.
Hashtag jelly gristle.
It sounds like a Dickens villain.
I think it sounds like
Mr. Jelly
a
Gristle
DJ.
scorned.
You're
MC
thinking of
Jelly Gristle.
Also,
MC
yours
Jelly
just
Gristle in the house.
Mr. Isn't he called Penny Whistle? I realise that's not the clown from It, but I'm sure Penny Whistle is like an Enid Blyton creation, isn't he?
Mr. Pink Whistle.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Why do I keep thinking everything's called Penny Whistle?
Maybe you've got to make it up.
I think I'm. This is what the universe is telling me, isn't it? I think
It should
what
be
I
a
most
combination
dislike
of the
is Penny
two.
Whistle.
A lovely
Okay, so
children's character, but also the most haunting clown entity in the entire universe.
He's a lovely children's character who exclusively travels by sewer. Makes his antics very specifically noxious in odour. Do we have time for one more, or should we get out while the line is hot?
We can do one more.
Okay, well, it's a nice light one to bring us out.
Get out while it's hot. You want to end on Penny Whistle, the sewer travelling carnival freak.
Question, if we have any commissioning editors for like CBBC or Disney Channel listening, then just drop me a line.
In the night sewer.
City. In the sludge garden. Lovely. Number 33. You know what they say about a show like this is that you, as the people running it, the show, although it doesn't exist as a physical entity, it is a construct of our intertwining narratives and energies and momentums and tangents. And in that vein, they say, leave them wanting more, end on a high. With question 33, what is your deepest regret? This has been episode 45.
Wow. Well, it all
Difficult.
started many moons ago.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even differentiate between all of my dreadful, deep regrets. I don't know. I never thought that I would be asked to rank one as the single most regrettable.
How about this then? Is there any, we can think about a specific instance, because I think if I were asked this without having been asked the others, I would have told that story that I told an episode ago about turning off Mr. Taylor's computer. Do you remember?
Yeah.
It was dark, wasn't it?
That's probably very much a lie if that's your answer to this question.
Well, I don't know. I don't have many, like that Sinatra song, New York, New York. But I think maybe we want to identify like a commonality, a common theme in our regrets, rather than dwell on one in particular. Not least of all because nothing comes to mind immediately.
Right.
But I guess what sort of things do you find that you regret more than others? Is it like things you've said, things you've done, both?
Things I've said I was going to do and then did. Things I said I was going to say. I think that regret for me is inherently tied to the way that I've made people sound or look in response to something.
Oh,
That
what on earth are you talking about?
Well, like I do regret things that I have done or said, but I think that the impetus for that regret is always lodged very specifically in ways in which people have reacted to those things that I've done or said, like the particular tremble in someone's voice when you know that you've really upset them, or the look on someone's face.
This is like Sartre's thing about how if you're a pervert, he's like, imagine you're a pervert.
Right. I'm glad that you're making this connection for me.
But anyway, he was a bit of a fiend, wasn't he, for someone who looked like an absolute frog. And I don't mean that as a racial thing, because look, guys, I'm half French, right? But he did look like a sort of bullfrog man. But he got around, and he wrote this essay about how emotion, and kind of negative emotion in particular, is responsive and reflexive rather than internal. And he's like, if you're, imagine you're a pervert spying on someone through a peephole, you're fine until someone else sees you, and only then is the feeling of regret or remorse or embarrassment, only then is it present. And so it takes interaction to have emotions rather than just the actions themselves.
Yeah.
But the argument against that is that you should feel bad in the first place. So do you think you're a bad person now?
Almost certainly.
Good.
By any objective definition. It would probably be wrong of me to say otherwise. But yeah, I like to think that I'm getting better.
Oh. And you think that the show's helping you, do you?
Definitely.
Good. Well,
This is this is an outlet for all of the negativity in my life.
Yeah. Well, that's nice.
So I'll be here long after all you lovely listeners have gone. Still just talking away into the microphone, answering questionnaire after questionnaire, detailing with impossible accuracy the most sorrowful moments of my days.
Well, that's nice to know. I can't think of anything in particular. It would definitely not be anything I've done. It would be something I've not done. No, here's one for you. So, where was I? I have a feeling I was in Tenerife. I was probably about 6, maybe 7, but no older than 23, right? And I was at one of those like entertainment things they do. And are you familiar? I know you will be, but listeners might not be familiar with the character Zippy, as in Zippy and George.
Well, you just said that you knew I will, so why are you waiting for a response? I thought you were asking rhetorically. Yeah, of course I am.
Okay, good. So he's, for you guys who don't know, he's an odd little creature from a program called, what is it called? Like Rainbow?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was on in the, I want to say 70s, maybe 80s.
It's got that creepy 70s pervert look.
Yeah, it has that kind of grainy, like found footage of abuse.
Looks like something that you were sure looking back on was cancelled after one episode.
It's a devastating affair. But anyway, his character is all about, he's kind of anarchic as a figure, and he's got a really weird voice, and he's basically just a puppet with a zip for a mouth. But his voice is this very gravelly, quite intimidating affair. And as I remember it, and I haven't seen much of the program, he kind of barrels around, surrounded by more normal and kind of archetypal children's TV characters who are just living their lives, while Zippy kind of fucks things up for them in a mischievous, I suppose ultimately endearing way. And anyway, there was this entertainment thing on. I have no context for this other than the very specific memory. And what happened, right? The guy had a Zippy puppet. Maybe he was involved in Zippy's life somehow originally when it was on TV.
Right.
And at some point in the evening, the comedy of whatever this man was producing had come to an apex, a zenith, its apotheosis, and it was time for Zippy to kind of fuck off home. And he called on me, being the youngest person in the audience, to come and, I think I was supposed to zip Zippy's mouth, and I just wouldn't do it. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And he was like, come on, in that Zippy voice. And that didn't make me want to do it anymore. But even then, I was very aware of the idea that I was missing out on an opportunity, and it's quite a little opportunity, to be the person who zips a puppet in front of an audience of about 20 in some no-name holiday destination place. But I remember even as I turned it down, and it was one of those, in my head at least, it was one of those, when someone asks you to dance and you're not in the mood, they're like, oh, come and dance, and you're like, nah, and they're like, no, but come on, it'll be great, and you're like, no, I really don't want to at the moment, which is quite rare for me. But that kind of insistence, and he kept asking, and I still didn't want to. And even as I was turning it down, I knew.
At this point, it strikes me as his fault for just persevering.
I think so.
With the kid who clearly did not want to zip a puppet shut.
No, I didn't want to, but
I think he was. I think if you looked him up, he's definitely in prison now. And I think that was just gut instinct on your part. That was like when we left Joe's.
I honed these instincts early, and they've stayed with me. But no, I think it was. It's become a metaphor, zipping that puppet, for opportunities, like paths not taken, and it's really stayed with me as something. It's informed a lot of decision making in my life. One of the questions coming up is about like words that you live by, and as I will discuss, I'll now spoil my answer to that. One thing that I say whenever I'm trying to like psych myself up to do something is, do you want to? I say it to other people as well. Like, do you want to remember this as the day you didn't do whatever it is? Because it's always more interesting to do stuff.
Oh, much.
Yeah, and so I thank Zippy in a way for not only my deepest regret, but for giving me something to work against for the whole rest of my life.
That's lovely. You've reminded me of a far less cautionary tale and more of just a very distinct regret that I now have from my own childhood.
Is it when you were a puppeteer?
It's
with a Zippy doll.
I was abroad at this holiday camp. No, it was. I was maybe 4, 5 at most.
Yeah,
and my brother therefore was 3, maybe bordering on 4.
Mm-hmm.
We've been out shopping.
You make it sound like you're at the pub. We've been out. We'd hit the town. A couple of 8 balls between us.
You know what it's like, 2 guys. We'd been placated during this trip because shopping when you're a kid is boring as fuck. It's boring as fuck anyway, mostly.
Unless you get a treat or something.
Exactly that, Isaac. And this time we had been treated. Mother had treated us each to a large helium balloon from Boots. Ooh. They were, I'll be honest, giving them away.
What a treat!
But they were reasonably big. They were branded, obviously. They're not mugs, Boots. But a helium balloon when you're a kid.
Oh yeah.
The possibilities are infinite.
And it teaches you about decay as well.
It taught us about something else that day. See, what I did was we went home and I looked up, like any child does, I looked up to the skies and I dreamed. And I dreamed of what it would look like to see my balloon floating away off into the distance, into space, into orbit. But you see, the thing is, I also didn't want to lose my balloon.
Mm-hmm. You're also dreaming of playing with it after that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I knew, even in my childishness, I knew that once you'd let go of that balloon, that was it.
It's God's balloon now.
You had the gift of it flying away and of seeing that beauty, American Beauty style. But then that was it. And that is, like you say, a lesson in decay, in death, in loss.
Yeah.
But I wasn't ready to learn that lesson. but I was ready for my brother to learn that lesson. So I remember very clearly standing in the garden, and in a way that is sneaky only if you are 5 and the person you're talking to is 3.
Yeah.
I said, "Hey, Kieran, let's hold your balloon for a second."
Give us a hold.
And my brother, being the nicest, sweetest, most innocent little thing, went, "Yeah, sure."
Here you go, big brother Declan. I trust and love you.
And handed over his balloon. And what I think I remember most clearly about this
Poor fool.
is that I held on to that balloon for, I think, less than a second. There was no ruse that I was ever giving it back. He handed it over, and I turned and lifted it up to the sky and let go, and off it went. And my brother was understandably devastated.
Yeah. I'm devastated just hearing about it.
And I have such a vivid memory of this day, of upsetting him, of ruining him, of taking advantage of him in that way. And I won't say I regret it, because it was cool watching the balloon fly away. But
on balance, it was pretty sick.
But what I'll say is that I wouldn't do it again. I wouldn't do it again.
I don't
and
know
if
that
I
he'd
did
fall for it again.
If I did, I'd have to come up with a better story. Go on, give us a hold. Just a second, won't let go.
It's not
Promise,
the strongest
Governor.
fantasy you've constructed around this. Like, oh, there's an emergency. The government says I have to hold your balloon for a second.
No time for it.
No.
I knew. Well, this is probably the thing that I regret, is that I knew that in his innocence and his loveliness that he would trust me. I was his big brother.
That's the worst thing of all, isn't it? Betrayed your authority position.
More fool him.
Well, there you go. I mean, that got pretty dark, guys. I hope that you've stayed with us on this one. It's not like that documentary where that guy admitted to being a murderer. Do you remember about that? Is it called The Ladder or something? It's called The Something. And I've spoilt it, so it's a good job that I didn't have the title to mind. But anyway, he did do those murders, so it's not quite at that level. But I mean, we've got darkness inside us. I mean, that much is clear to anyone listening to this. It's a pretty rock and roll podcast. We're pretty, we've been around the world. Don't speak the language.
We're not green.
Guys, look, we like hearing from you, and we read anything out. Oh, we've got some reviews. Shall I do that? We've got 1 minute.
Yes, go on.
Okay, here we go. You can leave reviews at shame.city/review or reviews, or search That's a Shame on iTunes. We appreciate them a great deal, not only because it's just really nice, like it's a really nice thing to do, and it brightens our day immensely, but also it does some mystical boost to the podcast, and much like Kieran's balloon floating off into stardom, in almost the literal sense, were it not for that pesky stratosphere, then it will boost the podcast and elevate us to even higher heights than our current hostless, unable to record by any means other than shouting into an absolute dream method that we currently have. Anyway, we have here Paulo, I'm going to say Dybala from the UK. Might have fucked up both parts of that name. Terribly sorry if that's the case. Hilarious, 5 stars. Oh, wow. What a funny podcast, which does, I'll admit, in that reading sounds sarcastic, but I don't think it was meant like that.
I think that was more your intonation.
What a funny podcast. Isaac and Declan are so funny together. Very, very happy. I know this bit's hard to read sarcastically. Very, very happy I've stumbled upon this podcast. That's lovely to hear. Tell us how you stumbled upon it as well, if you don't mind. Tell us at shame.city. It's good for us to know how it's getting around there.
This show, like most shows, is absolutely nothing without its listenership.
I wouldn't say nothing.
And if you want confirmation of that, just go and listen to the pilot. Look at episodes 1 through 9 and hear the absolute shambles that was this show, as opposed to this highly refined, well-recorded, scrupulously edited show that we have now. But what we mean by this, what we mean to say is that we love when you guys get in touch. We mentioned it earlier that we instantly speak to each other as soon as we get any contact from you guys. And and as you've heard as well, like, we love to read this stuff out on the show. Build the Shame City community.
Yeah.
You know,
from the ground up, because it's more of a, it's like a town at the moment,
from the hamlet. From the ground up and the ears down. We're building a better world. So if you'd like to be part of this wonderful community, you can get in touch with us in any number of ways, by which I mean 2. 3, if we're being generous. You can email us, can't you, Isaac?
Oh, very much so.
And where might they do that?
Well, if I were you, listener, I'd go over to shame.city just because it's such a laugh anyway. There's a giant dog, there's buttons that move, there's all kinds of things to look at. If you're ever bored...
There's that obnoxious little pop-up as well, isn't there?
No, I got rid of it. Wow, because it broke. Good. Couldn't bother to fix it, so off it went.
Great news.
Look, what I was going to say is if you're ever bored, you're strapped for something to do for a couple of minutes, go on shame.city, click on the episodes tab and have a look at some of the artwork that I slave over, quite frankly, for the benefit of the one person who ever sees it, which is me, yes. But no, look, some of it's all right. There's some little jokes in some of them. It's quite funny. There's weird stock images I find of like an Amazon robot.
No, anyway, really, there are some really weird stock images.
It is odd. It is odd. Shame.city/contact will take you to a contact form. You're going to type in your name, your email address. You're going to type your message. You're going to press send or submit or whatever it is. And it's going to wing its way, that electro letter, all across, like that bit in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory where Mike TV gets transmitted in a million tiny pieces and it's quite clearly just sort of pixels that they've glitched from another frame. And there's a lovely little noise that goes with it, though, that's like digital rain. That will all happen, and then it will vroom into our inbox. We'll read it on
almost
the show.
Certainly out again without us deleting it.
Yeah, that's a hell of a feature. Gmail's new hide and seek feature. But yeah, that's one way. Or just tass@shame.city, whichever floats your digiboat.
So you can also get in touch with us via Twitter, if email is a bit old hat for you. If you're down with the kids. If you want to be cooler than Toby Milestone's King and get on the old Twitters.
Why not?
Why not send a tweet our way? You can contact the show at That's a Shamecast, or if you'd like to speak to us individually, though Lord knows why you would, you can find Isaac at IsaacBD or myself at Cynical Declan.
I'm currently in a bit of a war with Kew Gardens about their vegetarian options,
yes.
So if you want to get involved, now's the time to arms Shame citizens.
Now's the time to get on the hype of spelling Isaac's name with 2 S's.
No! No one do that, please. Isaac, not me. And last of all, now look. Oh no, 2 things. Shame.city/mail. We've got 1 bonus episode you'll be sent. We're going to record another one soon. We've got 2 little clips from Alton Towers that are total nonsense. And, general updates get sent over there. Sign up to that mailing list. Get on the hype. You won't be spammed, I promise. But lastly,
quite
not
the opposite.
Least, very much the opposite. Last but not least is tell a friend, guys, because as we like to say on That's a Shame, word of the mouth is, well, it's the best of that mouth, the same mouth. So if you're spreading the word...
I'd go further. I'd say that it's the best of any mouth.
Okay, so the word of just anyone's mouth is going to be better than...
It's better than the combination of all other mouths.
The great universal mouth, the gaping jaws of destiny.
Yes.
Improved upon only by telling people about this show. It's a real pick-me-up I've heard from one person, and I've run with it. So absolutely spread the word. The more the merrier, And let us know your feedback about this once weekly thing. Sorry if this episode hasn't gone out on the day it was supposed to as well. That's not our fault, though, because we're recording it in time. What can we do? But yeah, we're going to try and make our 1 episode a week just as much fun and content as our bi-weekly episodes. Until then, however, until next Wednesday, I've been Isaac.
I've been Declan.
I thought so. And I'll see you next week.
Bye.
The bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder of my big home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you. For the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder, my new home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you. Necessities, the bare necessities, the bare necessities of life will come to you.
So we do like 5, 4, like that. Can we
3.
do?
Oh, I see.
So 5,
4,
3,
2,
1.
Go.
Go on then.
Oh, you actually want me to start now? Well, I didn't know that was it. Hello and welcome. Oh my God, that's clipped to fuck. So here we go. Start again.